Hi, everybody. My name is Lorena Sanchez, and I'm here representing Downtown Women's Center. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone tonight to the second week of the Together House campaign. We've been so heartened by the tremendous response we've had from our community, both near and far. With your support and generosity, the Downtown Women's Center continues to provide essential services to women experiencing homelessness in Greater Los Angeles. Our collective advocacy is also helping to foster greater community awareness and understanding of homelessness for women in Los Angeles. Thank you so very much. Our campaign continues for another week, so I just wanted to make sure everybody is on the lookout tomorrow for a very special conversation with our Made by DWC social enterprise. We're going to have a conversation on Instagram Live tomorrow Pacific time at 11 a.m. It's going to be a virtual pop-up shop. And so if you're a fan of Made by DWC products, here is my favorite candle, the Santa Cruz flavor. Be sure to check that out. And also, if you've just heard a little bit about us, it's a great way to discover our work and the purpose behind it. We're also going to be announcing a very special matching opportunity facilitated by the Otis and Bettina Chandler Foundation on Friday. So be a lookout for an email then. And then on Sunday, we'll be unlocking our silent auction that will take place at our closing celebration next Wednesday, September 23rd. It is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this evening, Christina Moses. Christina Moses has a passion for social justice and telling stories that enliven, awaken our minds and hearts to challenge stereotypes and the status quo. She's been performing on stage in Los Angeles and New York City on and off for years. I'm currently catching up with A Million Little Things, and so I recommend the show. And she's currently starring there as Regina Howard. Welcome, Christina, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you, more importantly, for having me here. It is an absolute pleasure to join this conversation. And that's exactly what this is and how we'd like to treat it, a conversation where we are unpacking the challenges, experiences, and issues so that we can collectively improve our understanding of homelessness and how it affects women in Los Angeles. So, all right. I also actually want to say that I'm very grateful to be spotlighting trauma and mental illness and mental health, and really going into how we can support and hold space for one another, especially during this challenging time. I will be asking questions of our panelists, and we welcome those watching from home to also ask questions. And in the spirit of conversation for all y'all panelists, please feel free to jump in with questions and comments that you might have for each other. All right, so I'm going to introduce three incredible women. All right, first up, we've got Maria Bamford here. Maria Bamford is revered for her deeply personal and experimental comedy about mental illness. She starred in the surreal, semi-autobiographical Netflix comedy series Lady Dynamite about a comedian who suffers a nervous breakdown, and is the star of 3 unconventional hour-long stand-up specials, Weakness is the Brand, Old Baby, and Maria Bamford. The special. Maria was the first female comic to have 2 half-hour Comedy Central Presents specials and starred alongside Patton Oswalt, Zach, I do this every time,
Galifianakis.
And Brian Posner in the Comedy Central series, The Comedians of Comedy, and Netflix's Comedians of Comedy, the movie. She also created and starred in the cult hit web series, The Maria Bamford Show, in which she plays all the characters. All right. And wonderful. Next, we have LaRae Cantley. LaRae is the co-founder of the Housing Justice LA podcast. Hey, a public speaker, consultant, renowned advocate for housing solutions, and social justice activist. She enjoys artistic expression as a means of liberation and healing through her involvement in the cooperation of supportive housing Speak Up program, the Domestic Violence Homelessness Services Coalition, and LASA as lived experience expert. And last but not least, we have Amy Turk. Amy Turk is the CEO of the Downtown Women's Center, DWC, the only organization in Los Angeles focused exclusively on serving and empowering women experiencing homelessness. Amy has held numerous leadership positions at the local, state, and national level in the field of social work and homeless services. She is a licensed clinical social worker. Welcome. Okay. Yeah, thank you. All right, so we're going to ask some general questions, then I'm going to move on to specific questions for our panelists. But first off, how are you? We are going through some crazy times right now. Just how are y'all doing? Whoever wants to get like, I wasn't prepared for that.
Probably the hardest question.
I think that kind of speaks for how we're doing. We're trying to find the time to balance everything out.
That's very well said. Yeah. Anyone else? Should I go on?
Yeah.
No, I'm
Well, that's it. That's it.
I feel you. It's just waking up sometimes is like the biggest getting out of bed. All right, diving in. So for those of us who are new to this conversation, what are the unique experiences and vulnerabilities that women face in this homelessness sector? Yeah, whoever wants to answer that can go.
Okay, well, I'm LaRae, and I have lived experience of homelessness with my children, and that is such a unique journey for a Black woman with children who are males, and I also have a daughter. And what that looked like for me, coming from a background of chaos and confusion, which is pretty common in communities that I grew up in, which are like considered high crime rate, high poverty. There's lots of drugs, lots of addictions, poor quality for education and healthcare. And so we're connected to a lot of chaos and confusion. And I've talked to folks about this pipeline, right? This pipeline to homelessness. Understanding during this COVID period, it's only highlighted how many, like myself, are just going to like fall in that pipeline if we don't have systems in place that will support how folks are not able to get rent paid because of I have an ice cream truck. I hope that's not showing up in everyone else's audio. But that's what happens over here in the hood. They have ice cream trucks at 6 p.m. and even later. But yeah, having systems in place that will support folks who are dealing with the economic crisis, having a hard time with getting rent paid. And what I'd like to take a look at, when you're a woman who hasn't had a lot of opportunities, you usually would find the support of a partner to help you. And most women who have experienced homelessness also have the intersection of domestic violence. So when you're relying on a partner to help you with your income to be able to afford housing, you're more likely to fall into this dynamics of the power and control if you have that type of partner, right? And then when things go all bad, then you try to leave from that relationship and you're dealing with the dynamics of abuse, physically, financially, mentally, then you're most likely going to end up homeless.
Thank you, Amy. Do you have anything you want to add?
to echo LaRae, I mean, if there is any semblance of a common denominator of people's trajectory towards homelessness, especially for women, it's gender-based violence, the experience of before homelessness and while experiencing homelessness. Just last year, Downtown Women's Center produced a report that surveyed women across the city, and 60% of the women reported they were a victim of crime over the last year. So the vulnerabilities for women while experiencing homelessness are just awful. And another kind of feeder into the experience of homelessness for women is that women make less money on the dollar than men. And it's more, it's worse for women of color. And so our wealth doesn't compound over time in the same ways, which leaves a lot of older women vulnerable to homelessness. And certainly a majority of the women we serve at Downtown are older. Mm. And there's also less services for women. We have kind of built a not mostly a community-based organization response to homelessness over the last 30, 40, and even 100 years, if you factor in sort of the traditional missions. Those were all built for men because the need was mostly for men. But in the last 30, 40 years, women have experienced financial hardship, changed. The dynamics of relationships have changed such that they're more and more experiencing. So there's literally less shelter across the nation for women than there are for men, leaving women really out of many of the solutions to homelessness.
Yikes! Wow, that really breaks my heart. Okay, so in line with that, I guess there's trauma and mental illness, before, during, after, compounded by homelessness, created by, even if it wasn't there before necessarily. So what do we know about that? What does that look like? How do we service that? How do we address that?
I'm just going to say something because I haven't said anything, but just the thing I love about the Downtown Women's Center is the lack of shame. Like you go in the center and that's something that at least with mental health or experiencing any kind of trauma, and homelessness itself is a trauma, like to be able to go in someplace and be welcome, mm-hmm. and to not have it not be blamed or seen as somehow that's what I really have enjoyed about the Downtown Women's Center, that it's a sense of you're okay however you come as well. Like you don't have to, that's something that would have really in different parts of my life kept me from going for help. Is like, oh, you got to have a job, you got to be clean of drugs and alcohol, you got to what? Like those are the things that are keeping me together. So anyways, I guess that's what I appreciate about is the community acceptance of each other.
Mm-hmm. That is like half the battle, really. Shame is everything. You take shame out, and then there's like the possibility of just being a human and connecting and healing and growth. So that's huge.
And there's just a few things that need to be missing to lead to homelessness. Like it's just one or two things go AWOL, and it's like, yeah, it just I think there is that thing of like, oh, that would never happen to me, and it's like, oh yeah, that yes, this I could easily happen to you. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, that I think,
yeah, thank you. And next question I just wanted to pose to anyone who wants to answer is, right now, thankfully, the conversation of the difference between equity and equality is starting to make its way in the national discourse finally. So how like equity is so important because that really is everything. So what does that look like in the homeless sector? Not just gender equity, but racial equity. How do we achieve that with, through policy, through social services, like consciousness, perception? What does that look like in the homelessness sector, and how do we achieve that in a nutshell? But if we could just kind of touch on that, I think that's important.
Yeah, it's hard to put it in a nutshell because it's a process.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process. It's something that you open up opportunity for people who have been marginalized, and you keep that space open. You do what is necessary to make sure that they're brought to the table, they're sustained at the table, and that what they're receiving at the table is helping them to be able to have just as much access to resources, to power, to the way that they get to experience quality living as anyone else.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah, Christina, we're too so thankful that this has become more of a national dialogue. Obviously, it's been a known truth among folks who are addressing homelessness for years, that homelessness disproportionately impacts people of color in our community. 60% of the women we serve are African American, yet 8% of our overall population in Los Angeles County is African American. And thankfully, in previous years, you could say that and people would be like, okay. And now it's like, no, that is like more and more are just like, oh, that's incredibly disproportionate. And, some of LaRae's most profound work over the last few years has been in the area of housing justice. Mm-hmm. And, for us, like housing is the solution. And without housing, without that platform, it is so much harder to have relationships, community, health, access, employment, meaningful employment. So, for us, it's just about advocating for more permanent housing solutions for everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah. There's no way you can have health or a personality if you're constantly freaking, I don't know. That's true.
Well, that let's just go to LaRae then. That's actually one of the questions is housing justice. And I was listening to your podcast today, the first episode. It's incredible. I really highly recommend everyone listen to Housing Justice Los Angeles podcast. And you were just saying, I thought it was so beautiful that you were saying that it's the flow. Like, how does someone's life flow? It's like the whole picture that makes someone's life work and flow. So if you could just speak to your work with housing justice, and what does that look like? What does that mean? Yeah.
So I'm going to start off by just bringing you all into my world of artistic expression. From the second to the hour, I've been waiting for the cowards to devour. The power of what's ours got me running from the fame, and the game is so dirty. I had to change the name. In a suicidal story, there's got to be an end. Beginning of a vision so relentless, heaven sent. Proceed with caution, I'm a boss and here to represent. It's evident and relevant in every sense of kid. Been leveled in to live again in everything I did. I said it because I meant it, but you bend in my opinion. Rebut on every sentence, you could have, but you didn't. My back against the wall, and this is all I know is get it. If money's not the problem, it's important that you hear it. Advocacy.
Whoa! Yeah.
Thank you. Wow.
And then gets to some stability where I'm rolling down the 110 with my music hitting. I got my gloss and confidence. I'm a gotta did it. I'm feeling light up on my toes, floating ambition, getting closer to my dreams. And there's ammunition. And the tension's in the air, but I don't pay attention. I'm on the mission, so aware of this justice mission. that I could stand and take a pitch just like Go Figure. But I'm as real get when it comes to women. See, better bread, I hope you filter out the bullshit. I could teach you if you want. I hope you got a ticket. LA, get their mind right. Here's your first lesson. Administrate yourself in better conversations. Comprehension one-on-one. Now, what's your motivation? Staying humble as they come. And I could tell who faking. But I'm going to pull it out your soul. Get back what you giving. And if you talking too much, you ain't even hear me. Advocacy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It takes the foundation of a stable, secure place for one to move from a mind that is so cluttered and constantly trying to figure out what is my next move, where am I going, where's the food coming from, do I have to watch out for this cat, what is she gonna do, how do I have to modify who I am just so that I can get into this place, just so that I can get this service, just so I can get this next meal, get these clothes washed. How do I have to show up so that my children are not mocked when they're still attending school while we're experiencing homelessness? It takes the foundation first of having this stable, secure, safe place.
Yeah. Thank you. So, okay. So what has been your experience and how can we be better with the advocacy? And how can we be better advocates?
So when it comes to my journey of being a social justice advocate, I think about how I experienced society. And as a kid growing up at the age of 9, laying down in a space that I knew was not safe, where bullet holes can come through my wall, where police can drop my dad off and say, keep him in for the night, where I never knew who was showing up at the door or why they were showing up. I knew then that how I felt in society needed an answer. And so when I got this stable place of living for myself and my children, it was like, now everything that pulls at the heartstring, I wanted to know, what can I do about it? And that was my journey into social justice advocacy. Mm-hmm. I first started off with wanting to understand, how do I make sure that my children can attend school and not be pushed out because of their instability or because of how life has shown up for them? And they deserve a right to education just as anyone else. Up until now, I understand it's all about policy, right? If we don't get it written in policy, then people aren't held accountable. Mm-hmm. And so we need as many people to be understanding of how policy creates changes, policy creates reform. We need as many people to be able to speak up and say, well, if I am someone who's experiencing great services, how do I push for someone who's marginalized to also experience this great service? How do we take a look at how every encounter that we have, from the time that we wake up and we pump our gas to being able to access the grandest vacation spots, to say, how are people that are marginalized being brought into this opportunity? And that's how I see advocacy being done better. Mm-hmm. When we start to really appreciate what we get to access, and we start to make space for those who are pushed out.
How do we inspire people to care? You know, like, what is the bridge aside from it happening to them personally? Yeah. You know, or someone close to them. How do we inspire that we are actually way more interconnected and interdependent than what we realize? You know, Yeah. So how do we care if it's not about us? You know, to put it crudely, but it's real, you know?
You know, that's a good question.
Mm.
I've never experienced it being not about me.
Mhm.
But I've experienced being in spaces where it hasn't been about others and me bringing my voice to that space. And
Mhm.
regardless of how they show up or how they hear me or not, I suit up and show up again and again and again and again. And I keep repeating it and I keep repeating it. Sometimes I send them emails with, like, hey, have you seen this movie? Probably things that they would look at, even though they may not still understand what other people are experiencing. But there's a duty for everyone to kind of take a look at what pulls at their heartstrings. And sometimes it takes for people to have that close experience for it to
Mhm.
happen to them or to a loved one. And I would love if I could switch on a magical switch for the entire world just to see. And I thought that this COVID pandemic did such a thing with just highlighting how everyone's connected.
Right. Right. I mean, we really aren't free until everyone is, you know, and I mean, that's such a reality. Anyway, we can add on that anytime if anyone wants to jump in. But we do have some more questions for LaRae. I think we talked about that. Well, we did. We talked about everything on here. So great.
That was beautiful. Wow.
That
Yeah,
really
thank you,
was
Lauren.
awesome.
Love your
Very
poem.
inspiring.
Nice.
I think the art, like what you're saying, like art really is another way, a huge tool. The next question is really tools and tips. And like, another thing too, I guess everyone can really answer this when we get to you. Just keep in mind tools and tips for sustaining ourselves in this kind of work, because it's a lot. So how do we stay resourced while doing this? Maybe if you just want to say one thing before we go on to the next, to Amy.
Mindfulness, meditation, inner reflection.
Word them up. Okay. Amy, you are next. What has been your experience of advocacy, and has it changed in your new role?
Mhm.
And what do you see as opportunities in leading a nonprofit?
I kind of think back to the start of my work in this space, which was in college. I worked the night shift at a shelter for women in Santa Monica. And it was the best job of my life. Just so neat to get to know the women, and also to, get paid to do my homework through the night and explore that as a career opportunity. But honestly, as a younger person in the workspace, I felt like it wasn't advocacy. I felt like I needed to be out in the leading protests and getting petition signs and telling the man what to do. And so I dabbled in sort of grassroots organizing for a while, and it didn't. I cried every night. It was so hard. I missed the women of the shelter. So for me, advocacy became more about direct one-on-one work with people, and realizing how, in social work, how actually progressive it was to even help someone get their ID and kind of bust through some barriers and bureaucracies to help advance them in their lives. So that's kind of the roots of my advocacy, and it's just grown as the platform of where I have gotten to work has grown. And, as CEO of Downtown Women's Center, now it's about bringing in so many voices to be a part of the solution. And I'll, cut the chase of what sustains me. It's the work with folks like LaRae. And LaRae and I do get to work. We talk every other day almost. We get to work on a lot of really interesting initiatives and efforts in our community. And to me, that's the real advocacy. I've been talking a lot, but usually hearing from me doesn't really help, but hearing from LaRae helps tremendously. And so finding ways to empower the women to be more of that voice is something that really drives my advocacy right now.
That's excellent. That's actually really important, in terms of finding like a tool or a tip, finding your own advocacy and how that works, even if it, for many months, let's just say it's just changing your perception of what homelessness means. And like you were saying, Maria, you think it can happen to you. Well, yeah, maybe it can. Like, we're not infallible for anything, as
I think
or
30% of the U.S. isn't able to make their rent this month. I think it's like 30%, and I mean the statistics are going up. So it's a real. It's everybody's close to it, except a few.
A few.
Yeah.
But maybe they're experiencing some help, another way. But yeah. Anyway, continue.
I myself, I don't have any lived experience. I have just mental health experiences, and I think, sadly, like that's the only way I've been able to be an advocate is through my own, experience with the difficulty in finding healthcare, and also the prejudices that come with that. I was very treatment resistant for a while due to not wanting to be on drugs, etc. I have bipolar, and then it was only until I had a complete breakdown of my abilities to function in life that I actually went into a psychiatric facility, and also I have had the experience of needing mental health care and then going to the county hospital where you go and you wait. I mean, if you don't want to kill yourself that much, you wait 8 hours in line, and which can be the hilarious part of mental health care. I just have a friend who has schizophrenia, and he was symptomatic, and so we went to the local 24-hour free clinic on the west side, and on the big screen TV was playing loops of very violent, constant loops of something recent that had happened that was very violent on CNN. And you're just like, wow, this is so funny in retrospect. Just those kind of things. So I think that's I'm good for a certain crowd to laugh, make people laugh about things that maybe most people wouldn't find hilarious. But I think that's something that's been a way I've been able to, and also to have a lack of shame about financial insecurity. The only reason I wasn't homeless was because I had a friend let me sleep on their couch for a year. Had a few other elements in place where I had some mental health care support through my parents. So I've used social services, definitely food shelf, etc. So I think that that's been what I can give. I wish, and also trying to provide affordable housing within Los Angeles. My husband and I own a home, so we do rent out parts of our home for less than market rate, so that and that's a very tiny thing to do, but it's something to do, and so why not do it?
Yeah, no. I think that's very important, but that's the whole point. It's like whatever you find, whatever your advocacy is,
whatever you're into, and
it could grow. But making people laugh and talking about mental illness through your comedy also takes away the shame. Amy, another question for you. How has the location of DWC and the population service impacted your work, your advocacy?
We're located in the heart of downtown Los Angeles in what's known as the Skid Row community. And this historically has been the place where folks who did not have a home were literally contained to. And it has unfortunately stayed that way for years. decades. And so every time you come to work, you see the dire need in our community, and that just fuels my advocacy even more. So like, there are parts of this town where you could kind of get around and close a blind eye, but you can't in Skid Row. What you see is just a total failure of all of our systems, healthcare, education, housing, all of it. And to see that and not do something about it baffles me. And honestly, literally, every time I come back into into work, it's just so in front of your face that you have to do something about it.
Sure. It's almost unavoidable in Los Angeles anymore. Period. I mean, I'm a native Angelino, and there are places that you would never see any unhoused humans, and it's everywhere. And a lot of them have jobs. A lot of these folks have jobs. It's astounding. It's astounding what's happening in Los Angeles. Anyway, okay, so this is a good question. There's so much that DWC does, and it's unique, really unique among nonprofits. And so what is your criteria in picking from all the solutions that are out there?
I think, Maria, your observations of our work here kind of speak to that, really trying to create an atmosphere that's welcoming for everyone, where we're really listening to what the exact needs, the expressed needs of the women are, and evolving our programs to meet what they say we need, what they say they need. So having their voice be front and center to everything we do here helps us decide what solutions to take on. We also ground ourselves in evidence-based practices, 3, namely trauma-informed care, harm reduction, and housing first. So we do everything through the model of those 3 evidence-based practices, and that's how we open up doors for more women.
Can you talk a little bit more about the trauma-informed care?
Yeah, maybe the most simplest way to distill it is it's shifting your perspective from a perspective of seeing something that is unpleasant and saying, well, what's wrong with that person? It's shifting it to starting to ask, what happened to that person? And when you shift that ask in your brain, suddenly you can be like, well, maybe something did happen. Oh, well, maybe I could explore further and not just blame and shame the individual, but sort of uncover all the reasons that could have led them to that predicament. So for us, it's the trauma-informed care is kind of a philosophy, a way of seeing people through more of an empathic lens.
Yeah, I think we need that all the way around, everywhere. Yeah, thank you. Any tools or tips that you can share in terms of sustaining ourselves in this work?
Listening to everything Maria Bamford does.
Oh, God. Well, that's a specific sense of humor. So everybody's got a different sense of humor. It's like a thumbprint. I'm not for everybody, but yeah, it's but there are things in there's so much. I know that a lot of people there. I know this is a comic premise. Commonly, they'll have about people on the street who talk to themselves who have schizophrenia, and that's one thing where it's people are afraid of anybody who's different or doing something different. I love that, looking at somebody and going, oh, how having some curiosity about somebody rather than going away in fear and a lot of time anger. People go away in anger because they're afraid, saying, I don't get what's going on here. So, but yeah, that I've really loved that attitude too, at the center, just because I know I've been in that, wanting to be understood place, and then people saying, but we'll help, only if you do this.
Mhm.
So,
Which ends up shutting it down.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, listening to Maria, her comedy.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it does it for me. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you.
There are so many, oh my gosh, there's, it's not about mental health, but there's so many beautiful TV shows out there about just particular experiences that, I mean, entertainment is valuable, and music, and I do love to laugh about, not everybody loves to laugh about horrifying things, but if it's happened to me, I feel like I get to.
No, it helps. If we can laugh at ourselves, man, that's half the battle. Laugh with, not laugh at ourselves, with ourselves.
So.
Okay. We just got a nice comment. I'm going to share it. This is from Facebook. That we have Melissa King Maria, my partner, is a comedian, and she has begun to talk about mental health in her comedy. So you are her hero, Maria, and hearing your story is so encouraging and inspiring. So I just thought it would be nice to share.
Yay.
Okay.
And artistry is so empowering. Like, LaRae, you're I'm not sure, I'm not a very hip person, so I think it's music, it's poetry, it's everything. Anyways, but it's just such an empowering way to go talk about one's experience without having to explain it all, and it's very moving. So anyways, I love it.
It also gives permission to kids out there, to folks out there who have an artistic inside, some little nudging, and they, and based on their circumstances, life is telling them no, or there's no room for that. And then, so if you share you in your life and your experience and your voice and your, your poetry, your whatever it is, whatever it may be, then that just gives more permission. And art is such a great healer. Oh my God, as you know. Let's see. There's some good comments. Janice Blair says, don't be ashamed of what you've been through. You're very strong women, so be proud of what you've become and the stories you can share to help others. And yay, wonderful. Such powerful and amazing voices from Mildred Brown. Yes, they are. All right. Let's see. Do we have some more questions for Amy? I think we can move on to Maria. Okay, well, you've shared a lot about this already. Like, if you can, share a little bit more about like what your experience of advocacy has been, and what led you to volunteer at the Women's Center.
That's for me.
That's for you.
Well, I volunteer in person only probably like several times. And then I decided, because I'm shy, I'm terrible with eye contact. Which seems weird for a comedian, but comedy is different because you're amplified, you're lit, you're not really, it's very, very performative. So I started doing more like benefits, or I've done Zoom shows and then given the proceeds, or people directly donate to the Downtown Women's Center. And sometimes when I've made some big money, I've given a chunk of change, but that's about it. Oh, that's one of the things of my business is I give 11% of the net income from the business to charity. A lot of it is the Downtown Women's Center and ACLU and other organizations that I believe in.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are the things I do. It's probably not enough.
It's enough.
But
because there's other people that do it too. Yeah.
But I think also like that one-on-one of being there for people in your own life that you don't know how close, friends, families, could be close to homelessness or experiencing it. And a lot of people don't reach out when it gets really dire. So anyways, I think it's an important thing to talk about, homelessness is just like that. The village needs to have more phone lines open.
Thank you. And then, well, yeah, you did touch on this. Like, how has comedy played a role in your life? Like, yeah. Okay, good. But if anyone wants to share more about that,
do you guys find Amy and LaRae? Is there some things that help you comedy wise, or things that you laugh about that is like just laughing with?
Oh, entirely. I mean,
yeah.
I too can like get down on like dark humor based on what we do every day, just for that release. But thank God for a comedian. I'm serious, Maria. Like your show and like just having that release is really good. But also like you're still bringing up, I feel like in comedy, you're still bringing up really real issues that need to be explored and creating an environment where you can actually talk about them.
Yeah, I mean that's what arts are for, because people don't always. LaRae, do you like comedy or watch comedy? Not everybody likes comedy, which is funny.
Funny, not funny.
No, yeah, I love comedy, and I find it to be such a gift to talk about something that is so real and present, in how it impacts one's ability to walk through life and society and be seen as the other. I too have been hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital. Actually, it was considered like vacation. It was deemed LaRae needs to go on a vacation, and that was.
It is.
You see, that's comedy,
right? You got some gripper socks for that vacation.
It actually. Yeah, I would love to just be able to have more opportunity to be connected to you and your work and see how this gift blossoms, because in the work of social justice.
Oh my God! Well, you're already a natural performer. If you ever wanted to try stand up, it's open to you. My goodness, you already have the gift.
Well, thank you. I think my children are too old to be funny. So.
Have they seen all the internet grandmas? Oh my God, there's a million.
She's not a grandma. She's not. Stop.
No, but I'm just saying, according to the AARP magazine that I get, there are thousands of 85-year-old women making TikTok videos and bringing in extra change, bringing in extra money.
My daughter is 18 and she says, "Mom, either you have to be young or you have to be really old." And I'm in the middle. They said I'm not sexy, I'm not funny, and I'm just mom. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm making policy sexy. And my son's like, no.
That's the toughest crowd, though. Your family is the toughest crowd you'll ever have. They're like worse than any drunks at a strip club. Your family is the worst. My family is still on the edge of whether I should be doing comedy 35 years in.
I don't know. There's actually an interesting question from Barbara Zabo. She says, are there any books you would recommend reading about homelessness, specifically about women? Does anyone know? Or any resources?
This is a test.
Yeah.
There is a resource.
Does the CEO actually read?
If you want to talk about
the resource that Downtown Women's Center just released, the needs assessment, that's a great resource. And they expanded the audience that they assessed. So there's a lot of information about women and their intersections of experiences. So look into the Downtown Women Center needs assessment.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank
And
you, LaRae.
only have about 10 minutes left. And I know Maria's going to close out with some stuff before we finally close, but just any, like a snippet, Amy, or anyone, LaRae, anyone who knows. We're about, obviously, the local election. We missed it in Los Angeles. Because I'm realizing the necessity for local politics and like in terms of policy and making change that way. Like what are some of the most important, this is a really bigger conversation, but like if there's like how to get people involved in local politics to inspire them to make local change that affects bigger.
Yeah. You know, so much good work has been done around that in terms of housing.
Okay.
We're part of the United Way Everyone In efforts, which helps get low-income housing built and moved into communities through grassroots organizing. So I think, you know, for how to get involved locally, like getting in touch with your local nonprofits that are working on this issue. Of course, we'd invite that at Downtown Women's Center. And standing up, supporting the solution. You hear about the opposition of the solutions frequently, but those public meetings can be attended by anyone. People that actually support it can come out too for, you know, citing low-income housing in particular.
Great. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. All right. Before we go, Maria, did you want to say some things around your advice for those? Okay. All right. Well, moving on.
Challenge people to donate. Yes, I can. Oh my gosh. Oh, you think you don't have any extra money? Oh, well, guess what? Why don't you look in that account that you have online that you haven't looked at for a long time? Or what about in your pockets or in your I know a lot of people don't have cash anymore, but some people still have cash. Anyways, just think about what you might spend on a coffee every day. Give everything that you can to the Los Angeles Downtown Women's Center and order things made by DWC. If you love beautiful things, they have them there. Oh my gosh, so gorgeous and made by wonderful women who are, it's also, you know, teaching so many things that are valuable in life, things that probably all of us could do, learning job skills and being making beautiful things. I'm sorry. I don't make any sense after a certain time. That's get money. What are you going to do with it? Nothing.
Nothing. We can't really go out and eat. So great.
These aren't mine. These aren't mine.
I love them. I was really hoping for like one of your ceramic pugs to kind of be in the background.
Well, I'm in Minnesota with family and
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
So
okay. Well, I just want to thank you, Amy. Thank you, LaRae. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, DWC. Thank you, everyone here listening out there in the world, and thank you for everyone who supports them. This has been a great conversation, and I hope it inspires everyone to learn more, to connect more. Be safe. Take care. Also laugh, have fun. Take care of yourselves. All right.
Thank you. So nice to be together with you all. And
so
thank you to everyone who came.
So fun.
Ciao, bye.